Delta Station was always busy. Ships came and went every hour. People walked fast, carrying bags, looking at screens, trying not to bump into each other. The air smelled like old metal and machine oil. Lights blinked above as cleaning bots rolled. Across the floor, Toma stood near a food stall, holding a hot paper cup of synth coffee. He had just finished his shift fixing delivery drones. His hands were rough. His jumpsuit still had grease on it, and his boots were worn out. But he liked this quiet moment. He took a sip and watched the crowd pass by. Then he saw her. A girl stood near the transit kiosk. Looking confused, she was wearing a plain gray jacket, dusty boots, and had a small bag over her shoulder. Her hair was tied back. She looked like any traveler. Nothing expensive. Nothing fancy. She kept pressing buttons on the screen. But the kiosk made a soft beep and showed a red light. Toma watched for a moment. Most people just walked past her. A few glanced. But no one stopped. She checked her pockets, looked at the machine again, then sat down on a bench. Her eyes looked tired. Maybe she'd been traveling for a long time. Toma walked over. "Need help?" he asked gently. The girl looked up. Her voice was soft. "I'm trying to buy a shuttle pass to Sector Gate 3. But this machine, it's not working. Or maybe I don't have enough credits. I don't know." Toma glanced at the screen. It showed the fare, 5.75 credits. He smiled kindly. "No worries. Happens all the time." He pulled out his old chip card and tapped it on the reader. The green light blinked. "There." He said, "You're set." Her eyes widened. "You didn't have to do that." "It's okay," Toma said. "Not a big deal." She stood up, looking at him like she wanted to say more. "But you don't even know me." Toma shrugged. "You looked like you needed a hand, and I've been there before. Stuck with no credits, waiting for someone to care." The girl smiled, a small, honest smile. "Thank you. Really? That was kind." Toma nodded. "Safe travels." She hesitated for a second. "What's your name, Toma?" he said. "I'm Nari." They shook hands. Her grip was light, but warm. "Maybe I'll see you again," she said. Toma smiled. "Maybe." Nari walked off, passing through the shuttle gate. She didn't look back, but her heart was beating fast. She'd come here in secret, testing her own idea to see how real people live outside the high towers and polished offices. She had expected cold faces and closed doors, but instead, she found him back near the food stall. Toma finished his drink. He didn't think much of it. Just another day. Another small thing done right. But sometimes, the smallest things can start the biggest changes. The shuttle moved quietly through the stars, passing glowing lights of other ships and faraway planets. Inside, Nari sat near a window, watching space go by. Her reflection looked back at her tired eyes, soft face, and a mind full of thoughts. She still held the small shuttle pass in her hand, the one Toma had paid for. It had only been a few credits, not much by any normal measure. But to her, it meant more than that. It was honest. It was real. He had helped her without asking for anything. No one had done that in a long time. Nari leaned back in her seat. No one around her knew she was the CEO of Virix Dynamics, one of the most powerful companies in the outer space zones. She wore no jewelry, no suit, no bodyguard, just simple clothes, soft shoes, and a traveler's bag. She had left her high tower on Nova Prime because she wanted to see how people live how they truly lived. Her advisors told her it was too dangerous. Her staff begged her to use a security team. But she said no. "I want to feel what life is really like," she told them, "not just look at it from above." And now she had Toma's face stayed in her mind, his kind eyes, his gentle voice, his rough hands and tired smile. He hadn't treated her like she was less or more than anyone else, just a person who needed help. Back on her ship, the Arix Light, her personal AI assistant, Ven, greeted her. "Welcome back, Director Nari. All systems are stable. Would you like a report later?" she said softly. "Can you check something for me instead?" "Of course," Ven replied. "I met someone on Delta Station. His name is Toma. He works in repair. I think. Can you find his full name and background quietly? There was a pause. Then Ven answered, yes, Toma. No family record. Lives in Worker Block 6B. Born on Mars Station 2. Works maintenance and tech repair. No criminal record. Monthly earnings low. Helps with drone services. One commendation for safety work. No. Known connections to any political or business groups. Nari smiled. He sounds even better than I thought. Ven asked, shall I arrange for him to be contacted? No. She said quickly, not yet. She sat at her desk, tapping her fingers on the surface. The glass screen lit up with company updates, terraforming plans, colony reports, market charts. She closed them all. For the first time in years, Nari didn't want to think about business. She wanted to think about someone who didn't care about her wealth or power. Someone who had no idea who she really was. A part of her wanted to go back to Delta Station and thank him again. A bigger part of her wanted to know him more. But she had to be careful. People always acted differently once they knew who she was. They smiled too wide, spoke too politely, or suddenly asked for favors. Toma didn't do that. He had just smiled, paid for a pass, and walked away. She sat quietly for a long time, thinking. Then she stood up and gave an order to Ven. I want to offer someone a new job. Who? The AI asked. Toma, she said. Offer him a tech position on one of our colony ships. Give him good pay, a private cabin, and simple terms. Don't use my name. Shall I prepare a message? Yes. Make it sound real but simple. Something he can accept without asking too many questions. As you wish. Nari walked to the window and looked out at the stars. The galaxy was big, full of people, ships, stories, and dreams. But somehow, this one quiet man on a dusty station had touched her heart in a way no one else ever had. She smiled to herself. Let's see if kindness can travel far, she whispered. Far below. Back on Delta Station, Toma finished another long shift. He rubbed his sore hands and yawned. Another day of fixing power lines and cleaning drone paths. Nothing special. He didn't know that his life was about to change. Toma stretched his arms as he finished tightening the last bolt on the power panel. The drone beside him beeped twice, then flew off to another task. Another long shift done. He wiped sweat from his forehead and looked around. The repair tunnel was quiet now. Only the soft hum of wires and the distant buzz of passing ships filled the air. Toma stood up and walked back to the worker area, not expecting anything different. But when he reached his small cabin, the door light blinked red. Message waiting. He raised an eyebrow. He didn't get messages often. Just bills or station notices. Toma tapped the panel. 2. Tomafram, Lumastar Operation Subject. Employment offer. Hello Toma. You have been recommended for a technician role aboard the colony vessel Lumastar. This role includes private room and full meals, clean working conditions. Higher salary than standard station rate. Contract, 3 months, renewable if you are interested. Please report to Dock 9 at 0800 tomorrow. No experience beyond current work history required. Toma read the message twice. Recommended. He said out loud. By who? He looked around the room like someone might pop out and explain it. But no one did. He sat down slowly. It didn't make sense. He wasn't special. He just fixed things, kept his head down, helped when he could. Still, the offer looked real. And good. Much better than the worn wires and dusty vents of Delta Station. Toma rubbed his chin. Why not? He said softly. Nothing's keeping me here. He packed his bag that night, only a few shirts, a tool set, and a small photo of his childhood on Mars Station. He didn't sleep much, but he felt calm. The next morning, he stood at Dock 9, waiting in line with a few other workers. Most were quiet, a few chatted. No one seemed to know much about the Lumastar. The ship itself was sleek and bright, new paint, new design. It didn't look like a transport ship, it looked like a dream. Toma stepped on board, his boots clicking on clean metal floors. Let's guided him through the hallway, where an assistant handed him a pass card and showed him to his cabin. It had a soft bed, a small desk, even a window. He had never had a window before. He dropped his bag and sat down, letting out a deep breath. Everything felt strange, but in a good way. Later that evening, Toma went to the tech bay, where a team of workers was checking systems. They smiled and welcomed him like he belonged. The tools were new, the machines quiet. It felt like someone had designed this place for people to enjoy their work. As he looked over a drone panel, someone walked in behind him. A voice said, "Still fixing things?" Toma turned, surprised. There she was, the girl from the station. She was wearing a clean white jacket with a name tag that said Nina. Her hair was tied up neatly, and she looked rested and calm. Toma blinked. You're here?" She smiled. "Looks like we're shipmates." He laughed lightly. "What are the chances?" "Maybe better than you think," she said. Toma felt a little awkward. "Glad to see you again." "Same here," she said. "This ship is nicer than Delta." "Station, huh?" He nodded. "A lot nicer." They talked for a while, nothing big, just easy words. She said she was working in operations, helping with onboard tasks. He said he was part of tech support. Neither one said too much, but the comfort was there, like two friends picking up from where they left off. Over the next few days, they saw each other more. In the hallway, at meals, in the common room. Sometimes she brought 2 cups of tea and sat beside him. Sometimes he told her stories about drone repairs that made her laugh. They didn't talk about the past. They didn't ask too many questions. They just enjoyed the time. But Toma noticed something. She listened. Not just with her ears, but really listened. Like his words mattered. Most people didn't do that. She also asked kind questions. She never acted proud or important. She helped clean up after meals. She once stayed to help an older worker carry tools. And once, when a young technician panicked during a drill, she calmed him down with a few quiet words. She didn't act like someone who had grown up rich or powerful. But something about her didn't feel ordinary either. One evening, they sat in the observation room. The stars glowed outside the wide window, like soft candles in the sky. Toma looked at her. "Nina." He said, "Can I ask something?" She turned toward him. "Sure." "Back on the station, were you really stuck without credits? Or were you testing something?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled and said, "Maybe a little of both." He chuckled. "Thought so." She looked at him. "But your help, that was real. You didn't know who I was, and you helped anyway." Toma shrugged. "Didn't seem like a big thing." "It was to me," she said. They sat in silence for a while, just watching the stars. And though neither of them said it out loud, something new was growing between them, something warm, something real. The Luma star glided through space, smooth and silent. Inside, the crew worked in soft light, checking screens, fixing systems, and talking quietly. It had been 2 weeks since departure, and things had settled into a peaceful routine. Toma was starting to feel at home. Every day, he worked in the tech bay with a few other workers, making sure drones, energy lines, and air systems were running well. He enjoyed the clean tools and organized space. It was different from Delta Station, where things were always broken and noisy. But the best part of the day was when he saw Nina. She would sometimes bring him lunch, other times she would call him on his comm and say, "Come up to the viewing deck." They would sit there, drink hot tea, and talk. Sometimes they just watched the stars in silence. Toma didn't know why he felt so comfortable around her. She wasn't loud. She didn't try to impress him. She just listened, laughed at his jokes, and shared little things about her day. He noticed how kind she was to everyone, always helping, always smiling. But he also noticed something else. Sometimes, when no one was looking, her smile would fade. She would look out into the stars like she was thinking about something far away, something heavy. One evening, after dinner, they sat again in the observation room. The stars outside looked like dust on a black cloth. Beautiful, endless, quiet. Toma took a sip of his drink and said, "Can I ask you something, Nina?" She turned toward him. "Of course. Why are you really on this ship?" She paused. Toma continued, "You're smart. You don't talk about yourself much. but I can tell you're not just some staff worker." Nina gave a small smile. "You see a lot, don't you?" "Maybe," he said, smiling back. She looked down at her hands. "I came here to breathe." Toma raised his eyebrows. "Breathe, yes," she said. "My life before this was very loud, busy. People talked to me all day, but very few really listened. I wanted to step away, to see what life was like outside of meetings and screens." Toma nodded slowly. "So you left all that behind for a little while." She said, "I wanted to meet people who don't care about titles or credits, people like you." He laughed a little. "I'm just a tech guy. You say that like it's small," she said. "But you're the first person in a long time who helped me without knowing who I was." Toma looked at her. "So, who are you, really?" She smiled but didn't answer. Instead, she asked, "Why do you work in tech, Toma?" He leaned back in his seat, thinking, "I grew up on Mars Station too. Not a fancy place. My family had to fix everything ourselves, old machines, bad wires. I got good at repairs. I guess it stuck with me." "Do you like it?" she asked. "Yeah," he said. "There's something peaceful about it. A broken thing comes in, and I make it work again, small, but honest." Nina looked at him with soft eyes. "That's rare." "What is?" "Someone who finds peace in simple things." They were quiet again for a moment. Then Nina said, "What do you dream about, Toma?" He smiled. "Nothing big. Just maybe one day opening a small repair shop on a quiet planet, helping settlers, living in a place with trees and clean air." "That sounds beautiful," she said. He looked at her. "What about you?" She hesitated. Then she whispered, "To be seen for who I am, not just for what I run or own." Toma didn't ask more. He could feel the truth in her voice. Later that week, a small team was sent outside the ship to inspect a damaged solar wing. Toma was chosen to assist with the external panel. Nina came to see them off. Wearing a light jacket and holding a tablet. As Toma suited up, she pulled him aside. "Be careful out there," she said quietly. "I will," he replied. "I've done this before." "I know. But still," she added, "just come back safe." He smiled. "You're starting to sound like someone who worries." "Maybe I do," she said softly. The airlock closed behind him, and Toma floated out into the dark. The stars were everywhere, and the wings stretched out like a silver arm. He focused on the work, checking circuits and making small repairs. Back inside, Nina watched his progress on a screen, heart beating a little faster than usual. She didn't understand it at first, but it was clear now. She had started to care for him, not as a worker, not as someone she gave a job to, but as a person, as someone real, kind, and strong. When Toma returned safely, she met him at the door with a small smile. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," he said, removing his helmet. "Didn't even break a sweat." She laughed. "Good." That night, they sat again under the stars, but this time, there was a new closeness between them. Not just quiet comfort, but something deeper, a connection in the void. The Luma star moved smoothly through space, its silver wings glowing under distant starlight. Inside, the crew went about their work, unaware that something was about to happen, something that would change everything. For Toma and Nina, for the past few weeks, life on the ship had been peaceful. Repairs were simple, the crew got along, and the connection between Toma and Nina had only grown stronger every day. They shared moments that felt special, quiet talks, long walks through the halls, small laughs over dinner, even the silence between them was warm. Toma still didn't know who Nina really was, but he had stopped asking. He liked her for who she was now, not for whatever she might be hiding. But one evening, everything changed. It started with an alert. Red lights flashed softly in the corridors. A voice spoke calmly over the ship's system. "All crew report to designated areas. Unidentified vessel approaching." "This is not a drill." Toma was in the engine room when he heard it. He looked up, heart beating faster. "Pirates?" someone whispered beside him. "I don't know," Toma replied, already putting down his tools. Back in the control center, The captain and senior officers gathered in front of a large screen. A dark ship was heading their way fast, quiet, no response to hails. Nina arrived. Seconds later, dressed differently now. She wore a deep blue jacket with silver stripes. A pin on her collar showed a symbol Toma had never seen before. She didn't speak like a helper now. She gave orders: activate defense shields, power up outer scanners, lock non-essential areas. The crew followed her commands without question. Toma was watching from the side, confused. This wasn't the quiet, soft-spoken Nina he knew. This was someone trained, someone in charge. When the ship got too close, Nina stepped forward. This is Director Nari of Virix Dynamics. You are approaching a protected colony vessel. Identify yourselves or prepare for automated defense response. Toma froze. Director Nari, Virix Dynamics? That was one of the biggest companies in the galaxy known for terraforming planets, building colonies, and protecting outer zone travel. Toma had heard of the name since he was young. And now Nina was saying she was the director. The screen showed the enemy ship turning away slowly. After a few tense minutes, it disappeared into the black. No battle, no damage, just fear of the name Virix had been enough. The room relaxed. Crew members smiled and clapped softly, but Toma didn't move. He just looked at Nina Nari with wide eyes. Later, in the empty viewing room, she came to find him. Her hair was down again. The blue jacket was gone. She looked like the girl from the station once more. But Toma's expression didn't change. You're the director? He asked quietly. Yes, she said. For how long? Almost 5 years. Why didn't you tell me? She walked to the window. Because I didn't want you to treat me differently. Toma stayed still. You said your name was Nina. It's a nickname, she said. My full name is Nari Lin. I use Nina so people wouldn't recognize me. Toma sat down, trying to understand. I don't get it, he said. You're one of the most powerful people in the galaxy. What were you doing on Delta Station? Dressed like that, she turned toward him. Her eyes were soft. I wanted to see how people live. I wanted to know what kindness looks like when there's nothing to gain. I wanted to feel something real. And that's why you let me help. Yuchi nodded. You didn't ask who I was. You didn't expect anything. You just helped me. He looked at her. And this job, this ship, you planned it? I asked my assistant to send you an offer. But I didn't expect you to accept it. I just wanted to give you a chance. Toma stood up, still confused. All this time, I thought we were just two people talking, laughing, building something normal. But now I wonder, was it all fake? She stepped forward, quickly. No, Toma, nothing was fake. Every word I said, every moment we shared, it was real. I didn't expect to care this much. I didn't plan to feel this way. He looked into her eyes and saw the truth there, honesty, worry, hope. But he also felt something heavy in his chest. He turned away. I don't belong in your world, Nari. You're big, powerful, important. I'm just a worker. She stepped closer. Do you think that's how I see you? He didn't answer. She reached out and touched his hand gently. You're the first person who ever looked at me like I was just a person. Not a boss, not a title. Just me. He looked down at their hands. I don't know what to feel right now, he said. Then don't rush it, she whispered. Take your time. But please, don't walk away. Toma didn't walk away. He sat down again. And for a long time, they just looked out at the stars together, quiet, close, not saying much, but feeling everything. Something had changed, but something had also stayed the same. The days after the reveal felt different for Toma. Work still went on as usual, and the ship moved forward through space. But something inside him had changed. He now knew who Nina really was. Nari Lin, the powerful CEO of Virix Dynamics. Every time he passed by a crew member, he wondered if they had known the truth all along. He didn't feel angry, but a part of him still felt unsure, uncertain. He hadn't spoken much to Nari since that night in the viewing room. She had given him space, and he appreciated it. Still, her words stayed in his mind. Please, don't walk away. He hadn't stepped forward either. One morning, As he finished checking the cooling pipes in the lower bay, a message blinked on his wrist screen. You are requested in the main office at 1600 hours. From Director. Nari Lindsma stared at it for a moment. Then he sighed. Time to face this. At exactly 1600 hours, he stood outside the main office door. It slid open with a soft sound, and he stepped inside. The room was bright and quiet. A wide window looked out into space. A desk stood near the back, but Nari wasn't behind it. She was standing by the window, her hands folded in front of her. She turned when she saw him. Toma, she said, softly. He nodded. You wanted to see me. Yes, she said. Please, sit. He walked slowly to the chair across from her desk and sat down. She stayed standing. I didn't want things to change between us, she began. But I know they have. And maybe they should. You deserve honesty. You gave me kindness when I had nothing to offer. You treated me like a human being, not a title. And for that, I'm truly grateful. Toma looked at her carefully. I don't regret helping you. That moment, it felt right. She smiled gently. It was. Silence passed between them. Then she walked over and placed a small device on the desk. It lit up, showing a digital contract. This is for you, she said. A full-time position at Viric's headquarters, lead technician. Custom housing, your own team. It's a good life, Toma. You've earned it. He stared at the offer. It looked perfect on paper, but his heart was still not sure. Why are you offering me this? He asked. She sat down across from him. Because I believe in you, and I want you to have more. Toma looked at her, then at the stars outside the window. He thought about his small room on Delta Station, his long shifts, the greasy tools, and he thought about the peaceful nights he had spent talking with her, drinking tea, watching stars, laughing over small things. He spoke quietly. I don't want to be hired because you feel sorry for me or because you care about me. She shook her head. This isn't about pity, Toma. This is about potential. You're talented, kind, hardworking. That's rare. He nodded slowly. It's just, I never asked for any of this. I was happy with small things, honest work, quiet days. Nari leaned forward slightly. Then let's build something honest together. He looked up, confused. What do you mean? I don't want you to work for me, she said. I want you to work with me, side by side. Not as CEO and worker, but as partners, as equals. Toma's eyes widened slightly. She continued. There's a new colony being built on a planet called New Haven. Peaceful, green, full of life. I want to build something there. A place where real people live real lives. Not just buildings and machines, but a community. A future. She smiled. And I want to build it with you. Toma didn't answer right away. He stood up, walked to the window, and stared out. The stars stretched forever, quiet and bright. He remembered his dream. A small repair shop, trees outside, a gentle life. Maybe this was it. He turned back to her. You'd really give all that up, those tall towers, those meetings for a simple life. She walked over and stood beside him. I give it all up to live a life that's real. And to be with someone who sees me for who I am. Toma looked at her, really looked at her, and he smiled, not because of the job, or the offer, or the fancy title, but because he saw the girl from the station again. The girl who had smiled when he gave her a few credits. The girl who had become something. Much more. All right, he said softly. Let's build something together. She laughed quietly, and the sound filled the room like sunlight. Then it's settled, she said. He nodded. But I'm still bringing my own tools, of course. She grinned. They stood there together, side by side, looking out at the stars, not as CEO and technician, but as to people who had found something rare in the galaxy. A choice made not by power or position, but by heart. The planet New Haven was everything they had hoped for. Blue skies stretched far and wide. Green hills rolled gently in the distance. The wind was soft, carrying the scent of fresh grass and wildflowers. A small river ran near the edge of the colony, where clean water sparkled under sunlight. Toma stood outside a small workshop with smooth wooden walls and a bright silver roof. He wiped his hands on a cloth and looked around. Birds flew overhead. Children laughed in the distance. Solar panels clicked softly as they turned toward the sun. It had been 6 months since he and Nari left the Luma star and started their new life here. The colony was still small, but it was growing fast. People from different worlds had come to live a quieter, better life. There were farmers, builders, teachers, and technicians, everyone working together like family. And at the center of it all were Toma and Nari. Toma now ran the colony's main repair station. He fixed solar panels, cleaned filters, and built small tools for settlers. His workshop had everything he needed organized, peaceful, and open to everyone. He never turned anyone away, even if they couldn't pay. Nari had given up her office. In the sky, her long meetings and busy schedules. She didn't need guards or titles here. People called her simply Nari. She helped where she was needed, planting trees, planting roads, teaching young settlers how to care for the land. Sometimes, new arrivals would recognize her. Their eyes would go wide. "You're the CEO of Virix Dynamics," they would whisper. But she would smile and say, "Not anymore. I'm just Nari now." Everyone respected her, not because of her past, but because of her heart. One quiet morning, Toma sat on the porch of the workshop, drinking warm tea. The sun was just rising, painting the sky in gold and orange. Nari came, walking up the path, wearing a simple shirt and brown boots, her hair tied in a loose braid. She carried a basket of fruit and placed it beside him. "Early start today," Toma said with a smile. "I picked these before the birds could," she replied, sitting next to him. They sat quietly for a while, watching the light grow. "Do you ever miss it?" Toma asked. "Miss what?" "The towers, the city, the power." She thought for a moment. "No," she said finally. "I used to think power was about control, about making big choices. But now I see it's about trust, helping people build something they believe in." He nodded. "That's what we're doing here." She looked at him. "And I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else." He turned to her. "Me neither." Later that week, a small group of new settlers arrived from a nearby planet. Among them was a young woman who had lost her tools during travel. "Can anyone help fix my farming drone?" she asked the colony. Someone pointed toward the repair shop. "Go to Toma. He can fix anything." She walked over, nervous, holding the broken drone. Toma smiled and invited her in. Nari followed, carrying a tray of bread and tea for the visitors. The girl looked at them both and said, "You two run this place?" Toma laughed. "No, we just help where we can." Nari smiled warmly. "We're all building it together." The girl looked around, then said, "This place feels different. Safe?" Toma nodded. "That's what we wanted." She handed over the drone. "Thank you. I didn't expect kindness like this." Toma looked at Nari, and she looked at him. They both smiled. "You'd be surprised," he said. "Kindness can travel far." At night, the stars above New Haven were clear and bright. No city lights, no noise, just quiet peace. Toma and Nari often sat under those stars side by side, just like they had on the Luma star. But now, they weren't floating in space, they were grounded, rooted. Homed out one evening, Nari brought out a small device of memory. "Crystal, what's that?" Toma asked. "It's something I recorded before we left Virix, a message." "I never sent it. Can I hear it?" She tapped the device. Her voice played softly in the air. "To whoever finds this. Sometimes the most important moments in life don't come with bright lights or loud sounds. They come quietly, like a stranger offering help at a transit station. Like tea shared under stars. This is a message from someone who had everything and gave it up, not to lose, but to gain. To gain peace. To find truth. And to fall in love with someone who never saw the title. Only the heart. Toma listened, his eyes soft. When the message ended, he reached for her hand and held it gently. "I saw you that day at the station," he said. "Just a girl trying to get home. And you helped me." She whispered, "You were my home before I even knew it." They sat together, hands held tight, under the wide, star-filled sky. And so, their story became part of the colony's story. People told it around campfires and family dinners. He gave her money for the bus, not knowing she was a CEO millionaire, and she gave up her world to be with him. Not because he was rich, not because he was powerful, but because he was kind. And sometimes kindness is the strongest force in the galaxy. The end.